Welcome everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com with a mixed media project, and this one is called Hello 10. And this is a special gift that I've made for my granddaughter Melody. She'll be turning 10 in a couple weeks, I just can't believe it. But I wanted to make something interactive, bright, cheery, sparkly. So I came up with this design using the Tim Holtz picture show dies for my shaker element and also the Simon Says Stamp paint by number dies that match Tim Holtz stamps. To start this project off, I have the medium size vignette box. So this is 4 3/4, and I'm going to be painting around the edges with black gesso. By using the black around the edges, it'll really help my colorful paper pop with the contrast. The painting is pretty basic. I'm just using a nice wide brush and just dipping off some of that paint from the lid first before I dip into the jar. And with this black gesso, you really only need one coat to complete the finished project. I've painted a little bit of that black gesso on the top portion as well, and I've set that aside to dry. And next I'll be using the rainbow wood paper, and this is by Paper Rose, and it is super gorgeous. There are several sheets, but I've chosen this one and I've cut it down to the size that will fit onto my vignette box. To glue this down, I'm using the Distressed Collage medium and a nice wide brush, and I'm going to be spreading this all over the surface of the top of the box. I really want to make sure that I get all the edges and the corners, since those are the high stress points of your box. So if anything's going to peel up, it's going to peel up from there. So I'm just adding a generous amount onto the top portion only. And now I can add my trimmed paper right to the top, and with my fingers I'm going to make sure it's lined up top to bottom and side to side, and I can start to press this down. To make sure that the glue has really set in, you can start rolling it with a brayer, and if you go from the center out, you can start pushing that glue off to the edges. If you get any glue seeping out, you can just wipe that off with a paper towel. And next I'm going in with another layer of the collage medium, and I'm going to go over the complete project, the paper and the sides and all. And I'm just using some broad strokes and grabbing more collage medium as needed. Here's a quick tip for you. You can place your project on a jar and just set it aside to dry until you're ready to use it again. So now I have the picture show dies, and I'm using that stereoscope that's in the center for my shaker element, and I've cut that from black cardstock. The dies come in 2 pieces, so if you want to cut out the entire piece, make sure you match those up and then cut those all together. Using that outside ring, I've also cut a piece of thin acetate, and that will act as the window behind the picture wheel. To glue these together, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp KRAFT Tacky Glue, and I'm just adding a line of glue around the whole outside. Then I'll add some to the center, and then a little bit of glue in between each of those windows. And now I can lay that acetate piece right down, and I'm matching up the little notches around the outside of the circle. Now that my glue is dry, I'm adding strips of our 3D foam strips around that little tiny edge, and I'm going to end these right at those little knockouts on each side. These strips are perfect for going around in a circle or around shapes. The paper will pucker up a little bit, but the foam will sit straight. And now I can finish my last piece, and I'm cutting it right at that knockout. And I've decided what I'm going to do to keep any of the sequins from sneaking out is I'm going to add some sequins to each of those areas, and to do that I'm going to use some of my Simon Says Stamp KRAFT Tacky Glue, and I can place those sequins right in that place. That way none of those little guys will escape when I assemble this onto my project. With my glue already in place, I can just grab a sequin with my embellishment wand, and I'm using the largest size to make sure that I can blockade each of those knockouts just right. Next, I've worked a little bit on my film frame, and I've cut that from metallic cardstock using the die, and I've also cut a piece of acetate and I've glued that onto the back so that I can add my hello on top. And this hello came from the A2 nested frames from Simon Says Stamp. It's the center word, but I'm going to put this onto this frame a little cockeyed first. And to do that, I'm going to use my Simon Says Stamp glue once again. I can get fine lines of glue without it squishing out between onto the acetate. Now I can just press this right onto the acetate really gently, and I'll set this aside to dry. Now that that's dry, I'm adding a little bit of the foam strips to each of the ends of the photo frame since I want it to have a little bit of dimension. Right now I'm determining how I want this to sit onto my project, and I'm going to remove the backing of the foam strip that's going to sit onto the photo wheel, and then I can set this down in place, and I'm going to start building this just using these elements before I permanently place them onto the project. Next, I'm going to be using the dies only from the Paint by Number die set from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm just placing these onto some of the Simon Says Stamp silver glitter paper, and I'll run these through my die cut machine. At this point, I have the 10 cut from the glitter paper, and I also have some cut from some really pretty pink paper, and this is from the Memory Box Blush cardstock. There's 30 sheets of paper in there, and I thought these were really pretty to go with my background paper. To glue these together, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp KRAFT Tacky Glue, and I'm going to be doing an offset mounting. So what I want to do is to put my glue down, and then I can set the other number right on top, but it's got that peekaboo shadow of that pink paper showing through. And once I have both of those glued together, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp 3D foam squares, and these are the black backing. I want to use the black in case you see it from the side, since it's got that black background from the photo ring. Okay, I've got most of my pieces ready for assembly, but before I do that, I want to add some splatters to the background on my project. And I have a Simon Says Stamp, one of my card kit boxes, and I have some black gesso that I've thinned out with a little bit of water, and I'm just using a craft paintbrush, and I'm just grabbing some of that wet paint and just splattering it onto the project. Okay, my splatters are dry and I'm ready to do some assembly. So I have some Mermaid tail embellishment mix, and this is from Simon Says Stamp, but they just came out in one of our card kits. And I'm spreading these around in a circle so that I can put my photo wheel on top. Next, I'm going to peel off the backing of about half of the photo wheel. This way I can make sure I have everything straight before I set it down and need to readjust it. And once it's in place, I can reach underneath and grab some of the backing from the other pieces, pull them away, and then press it down onto my piece. And finally, I can remove the backing off of my numbers and make sure that I have those in place how I want them, and then press them down. And when I'm done, I have a cute, bright shaker piece for a really special girl. I had a lot of fun with this project. I really love this paper, and also the sparkliness, and also having a shaker element on top of a mixed media project. I do have all my supplies listed in the description box below, and a link to our blog post for more information. And as always, thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.